Welcome, Web Media friends, Web3 Media friends. This is how tongue-tied I am about today's episode. Today's episode, I'm going to introduce you to Guillaume Wolf, who has written, a friend of mine, Guillaume Wolf, who has written one of the best books on creativity I've come across, and I've read a lot. Like Rick Rubin's, like I'm going through, and there's just so many in the pantheon of great creatives, and who may not be the best, teachers. And so Guillaume is an exception to that rule because not only has he a career in brand development as a designer and as an artist, where he has worked for Louis Vuitton and Dior and Chanel, and he's worked for some of the great brands, as well as he had his own HP laptop that was his own brand, and it was kind of amazing. Now I wish I would have collected one now that I'm talking about it. But it's just like, well, Minty, great, fantastic. Bring on this guest and let's talk to him. This is what makes this episode a bit unique. Guillaume, unfortunately, took his own life. Sorry, I get really choked up. He was a good friend of mine. And he took his own life last week, and I've been sort of trying to process that, because you think of success, and you're like, wow, he's working with all these great brands, and but when you know somebody, when you know the struggle of an artist, when you know it's tough, guys. This is why I do the show. The struggle that we go through as creatives in business. The struggle is real. I'm here to talk about that struggle. I'm hopefully bringing ideas with other creatives, entrepreneurs, people who are entrepreneurial in their creativeness is who I bring on the show. And we talk about, the strategies that have worked for them. And Guillaume, he had this really successful career as an author. And I'm going to put all the links down below. His big breakthrough was "You Are a Circle." It was very this artistic meditative thing. And this is he'd been teaching at Art Center, one of the top schools for arts for the arts, I think in the world, really, certainly in Los Angeles. And he'd been teaching there for a long time, and he'd really sort of broken down a lot of what he was teaching, a lot of the problems that he was getting from a lot of creatives, at the same time as being a professor, but also at the same time as working as a professional for brand development, which he became, known as the guru for brand developments. And so he made this book, and I remember he sent it to me. He's very kind. He sent it to me, and it really was just one of the best books I had ever read on creativity. Why are you sharing this book? Nancy, well, let's just go buy the book. This book is actually out of print. It's one of those that I think he, I'm just like, oh, how can we, work together to reprint it? I think he actually might like the idea that it's a very hard thing to get a hold of. And, if you read all of his other books, it all pieces together. But this one book laid the roadmap. It was the first, because it was the roadmap to how he was going to succeed in the art world. And in business with his creativity, and how to do so for yourself. And so it was this really touching thing. And this is going to be a weird one, but I know he's going to like it. So I'm going to read some excerpts, and I'm just going to bring up a circle, and we'll make cut downs of this, because there's so many nuggets here for creatives that are so necessary to adding to your process right now in this world of shifting change, like the paradigm. Like there's no words of the tectonic level of shape shifting that your career is about to take with AI, whether you're adapting. Most of you are, and I think that that's why you're here. You're adapting. You're looking to how to adapt. You're looking to how to bring in that specialization and how to survive with it, because that is the big lesson at the end of the day is how to incorporate it, how to defend against it, how to it's here, and it's something that is necessary. But in his wisdom, he actually provided a roadmap for adapting to the ever-changing landscape that's here for creatives. And I thought that was so apropos for those of us who are looking at AI, like, what do I do with this AI stuff? Well, let's go into the circle and let's talk and commune with Guillaume Wolf, author, artist, brand maven. Why I wrote this book. An impossible dream. When it comes to reinvention and your life, you really need to pay attention to your mindset, because if you get it right, the path to creative mastery can open fascinating new doors for you. Indeed, this has the potential to literally be life-changing, no matter where you start. You see, I can speak from experience because I lived it. Early on in my life, it seemed I was a hopeless case. I was kicked out of the public school system when I was 9 years old and labeled educationally challenged. And years later, I failed my design school entrance exams, which at the time is like the ultimate rejection. Nothing in the world predestined me to become a creative consultant collaborating with the best companies and the most creative people, nor to one day, and I have to appreciate the poetic justice, become a teacher at one of the best design schools in America. In fact, I was repeatedly told by authority figures and my friends that I wouldn't and couldn't make it, that I was a dreamer, my hopes were impossible, and it seemed they were right. No matter how hard I wanted it, nothing was working. Things were very grim. When I was 18, my life seemed to be going nowhere. I was broke, angry, and depressed. I was jobless and without an education. I vividly remember how I spent hours wandering the streets of Paris at night, chain smoking, jacked up on a diet of 8 coffees a day, trying to figure things out. I remember a suffocating sense of wanting to express myself and my place in the world, but having no outlet with which to do it, being isolated and nowhere to go, feeling trapped in a reality I hated. Later, I ended up working a dead-end job with a supervisor insisting, "You should give up your aspirations. You're really going to hurt yourself if you continue your foolish dreams." But yeah, I kept dreaming. Despite the obstacles, I decided to play a few cards I had, and as luck would have it, I literally bumped into my first mentor. And as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And now moving on to the next segment in this book by Guillaume Wolf, Redesign, Recreate, out of print edition that you're just not going to find. There might be one at some used bookstore, and I encourage you to pick it up. But you can certainly read the rest of his works, which I'll be sharing throughout this with links down below after the show. The next section is the new economy a monster, or is it? I'd like to be very direct with you. I sometimes refer to the new economy as both a source of opportunity and a monster that likes to devour its young. Is sometimes I wish we lived in a more stable time. We don't. The speed at which the markets are disappearing and being recreated is astonishing. Unfortunately, there is a terrible human cost to these changes. This is not an easy time. There is no question about it. If you need to reinvent yourself, it's possibly because of one of 3 reasons. You're A, someone who's already faced these changes. B, someone who sees change coming in your industry and knows it's time to evolve or jump ship. C, or someone who understands that change is the new reality and constantly reinvents him or herself. So regardless of where you are right now, you're faced with the same challenge. Reinvention is the name of the game. But I want you to dig deeper. I want you to look beyond the obvious. First, take a magnifier and study what the new economy is made of. The new economy creates an unpredictable environment driven by one constant: change. Change is the building block. Next, when we zoom in a little more, we can observe that today's change is unique for 2 reasons. It's global, and it operates in real time. Another characteristic of the new economy is, of course, information. We have moved into an era that commentators call the conceptual age, which is the next level of the information age. It simply means that everything is idea-driven. Ideas are the new gold. This is good news for you because becoming an idea generator is a skill that can be taught. And that's what, this book and this talk is about. We're entering a time where idea making is becoming the most important skill there is, no matter what industry you're in. This is an important concept. We're literally surrounded by an interconnected web of expanding information and ideas flowing like an ocean of data. This is something very similar to what visionary thinkers Vladimir Verdansky and Pierre Teilhard de Chardin called the noosphere, the sphere of human thought. All these characteristics are unprecedented in human history. I propose that the only way to thrive in this new ecosystem is to not only embrace change, but to become a force of change within your life. As Buckminster Fuller repeatedly told us, don't fight forces, use them. You can do this first with your capacity for personal reinvention. growing and evolving your new skills and trying new things. Second comes your capacity to generate new ideas. As we'll see together, this combined dynamic is the key to thriving in the new economy. As you integrate this, your mind will start shifting. You'll recognize that far from being a monster, the new economy is simply the product of an accelerating global trend. This is very liberating. If you get a peek behind the veil and understand the forces at play, the new economy can be brutal for the unprepared, but a monster it is not. Further, we're dealing with accelerating trends. It means the tides can quickly turn to our advantage if we prepare for them. The nature of these new rapid cycles hides opportunity. There's good news. You're going to learn how to become a pattern recognizer. If you can spot the emerging trends before the masses do. Isn't it cool? It is. Two fundamental questions when we talk about reinvention. One thing I want to ask you is this: how are you different from everyone else in your field, and how does your market know about it? Write these two things down on a Post-it and display them on your computer, on your fridge. Actually, let me rephrase this: display these questions everywhere in your house. They're very powerful. If you're going to find a solid answer to both of these questions, you're good to go. If, on the other hand, you struggle with them, rejoice. You're in the right hands reading this book. The first question, how are you different from anyone else in your field, addresses what makes you unique. This is where your creative wealth is present. The second question, how does your market know about it, addresses the numerous ways in which you can actively promote yourself. Two things working in synergy. They are also evolutive, meaning that you can keep asking them all your life. The answers keep growing and evolving. The more you ask these questions, the better the answers will get. So these are excerpts from Guillaume Wolf's first Lost. I don't want to say it's the Lost, but it's certainly unavailable. But I think just so apropos in what we're experiencing today in the world of AI. One of the Web3 media friends I really wish I could have had here on the show. The next section is reinvent or rebrand. While I've used the word reinvention so far, I'd like to introduce you to the concept of personal rebranding. I'd like to share this idea with you because of the new economy. You can't continue attaching your sense of self to what you do. We don't have this luxury anymore. Change is happening too fast. Here I am going to invite you to consider your work self as a personal mini brand, meaning that by simply considering what you do as a brand, you can do much more easily distance yourself from it and eventually tweak it, redesign it until it works. The problem with the expression of reinventing yourself is that it immediately raises fears and insecurities. It denies all the good things we've done in the past and all our qualities. It also tells us insidiously that maybe something is wrong with us, that perhaps we need to change in order to become a new person. Of course, that's not what this is about. We approach reinvention as a natural, ongoing process. Just like when you design a garden and spend time attending to it through the ever expanding seasons and growth. Moving from reinvention to rebranding is an interesting choice when you switch to the idea of personal branding. It completely takes the weight off your shoulders. You can freely ask simple questions about how big of a deal to make it. How do I redesign my mini brand in order to make it attractive to the marketplace? How do I communicate about my mini brand? Rebranding is a fun invitation to work on something great. While this might be a new concept for you, envisioning your work self as a mini brand helps you get absolute clarity on what your strengths are and what you need to improve. So these are sections from my friend Guillaume Wolf, who we lost early last week. And I'm sharing excerpts from his book, and there'll be additional links down below to find some of his other books. But this first out-of-print book to me is just so informative about the times we live in, and really the map of success he used early in his career to become this guru in branding and make a name for himself in art and design in the biggest companies. The first rule: all you have is your process. Now I'm going to introduce you to the first rule of creativity. You'll see them more as we progress. These universal principles that permeate everything creative. Simply reflect on them and see how they apply to your creative life. All you have is your process. Just read about our fictitious process, and you'll see the daily steps, the creative practices, and the outcomes. Get this in your mind and rub it in. All you have is your process. I'm gonna say that again. All you have is your process, bound to the present moment, not in the past, not in the future. If you focus on your process, you develop a unique relationship with your creative work. This will get you through any tough time. Going back to your process, perfecting your gesture is the way of mastery. There is no final goal here. Mastery is not a destination, it is the invisible dynamic of your journey. The mistake you should avoid, though. No matter how successful you become, awards, money, fame, you can never say I made it, because the second you start doing that, your creativity says bye-bye. This means game over. You become a caricature of yourself. You see this phenomenon illustrated a lot in the entertainment industry. A star is born, talented, everybody loves them. But when they start to believe their own PR and fall in love with their own image, they forget the process, indulging in the glory instead. A few years pass, next thing you know, they've been a has-been. You look at someone like the Queen of Pop, Madonna, notoriously obsessed with her process, always reinventing herself. As a side note, I feel like, that Michael Jackson documentary really pulled that into focus for me as well. Like, when you're really pushing beyond the boundaries of success, when you have that initial success, it's something that stuck with me very early on as I was growing my own career, because I looked at, I guess again, pop back in here, in between readings, but in my own career, like having a focus on the process really helped me, because when you do have slight initial successes, it's there are moments of where you just kind of want to get to the next thing. That's kind of what I've always been about. I almost hate the press sort of circuit. I hate post-production. I hate a lot of the things that deal with the tidying up of a project after I've done with the bold strokes of the creative process of the creation of it. I just want to get to the next thing. I feel like a lot of creatives have that problem, that problem as well. But I think it also is a focus on process. And here Guillaume notes that Madonna has it, and I noted that Michael Jackson had that too. That extreme level was just always everything was about process. Outside, life may be tough, life may be weird for our friends, life may be, challenging in ways that creativity cannot express, cannot find roots in its expressiveness. And so having process really helps you get through a lot of the insecurities about yourself and about what it is that you do, because there is a lot of areas of confidence that get knocked about. Like I just get kicked in the face all the time when it comes to is my work cogent? And it's just like oh, okay, great. Like it made a lot of money for this company, but does it make a whole section of humanity feel ugly? Like there's these weird questions that come up when you have things that you've done that are out in the world, because you don't control that. It's just like it's out for people like George Lucas, has this perspective, that Star Wars is him. And it's just like at a certain point, Star Wars is not his anymore, and it's just like very early on after when the first movie came out, it's no longer yours. You can claim to have authored and all these sort of things, but it becomes something else once it's released, and it's uncontrollable. And that comes with uncontrolled, meaning how the marketplace receives it. You can do certain things. You have great teams that help you with things, but process is all you have. And so we'll return to words from Guillaume Wolf, and I'm going to go back to my circle because he did this great book that made him his initial big success as an author was a book called "You Are a Circle." What all successful creatives have in common. In my life, I'm very privileged to be interacting with top creatives. And I'm talking about heavy hitters there. I'm sure he's talking about me. Leaders are many different arenas: entertainment, fashion, arts, design, business. What I learned is that these men and women all have one thing in common. Beyond the commitment to reaching their goals, which lie somewhere on the top of a mountain, their focus is strictly aimed on their process. Nothing else counts. I've never heard any of them tell me, wow, Guillaume, since receiving this award, I can chill out in my castle and eat caviar all day. It's awesome. I've made it. Never. No matter how big the honor is, they always think, what's the next step? What should I try next? What do I try next? The process is everything. That's why I always hear things like, this person's success is because they're a hard worker. True, but watch out. This is not ordinary work. This is process work. The Grandmaster of Fashion reveals his secret. The idea of process was validated when we interviewed Karl Lagerfeld for White Wall magazine, fall of 2009. As you probably know, the fashion industry is incredibly competitive, trendy one day, gone tomorrow. But Lagerfeld had been creative head for luxury fashion house Chanel for 25 years. At the time of the interview, here he's had to say about the subject of creativity. People don't have to remember what you did. They should see what you do. If you want respect for your past, it means that you have a problem with your present and even more with your future. And I like to do things for the thing, not for having done things. And when something is finished, I want to do something else. That's why the world of fashion is perfect for me, because it's about change, redoing, and redoing again. Wise words from the master. We call him Carl. So when I say all you have is your process, rejoice. No matter what field you're working in, whether you're a beginner or a pro, you're working with the same stuff. Creativity is your process. And so thank you for indulging me as I read a book from my good friend Guillaume Wolf, who we lost. And rest in creativity, friends. He leaves behind a beautiful wife and a lovely 11-year-old daughter. I share this because I know that a lot of social media and a lot of even in Twitter spaces, like even now, it's just like the idea of success has become so important to rock your ape, to have this big guard up of like, I'm fine. And hey, West Coast, his song with the AI Grimes was really cycling in my mind because it, as these lyrics of what a great time to be alive. It's such an interesting time to be alive, in this world of AI. But we're still living in this world where we thought like we're it's like, how old are we? It's like we've grown up with social media pretty much all our lives, and so having this veneer of like, oh, everything's great, everything's fantastic and fine, is a challenge. And I know a lot of you guys are dealing with that, and I hear you, I see you guys day to day, and I know you guys are going through some serious struggles, but there's process. There are tools available for us in which to work through a lot of the difficulty. And hopefully, my process anyway, is to make some interesting, cool art. So I thank you for indulging me in this modest project. It's going to be this entire week. These segments are going to come out. And I hope you enjoy these segments and they bring you hopefully a bit of not just solace, but perhaps some inspiration as well. Thank you.